Hey folks, Doc Patterson here with the lesson for the week. It is the season of Eastertide, and so we are going to look at a passage where a woman that everybody thought was dead was resuscitated by Peter. But it's also Mother's Day, and so we're going to utilize that in honoring our moms as well. The passage of Scripture that we're using for our lesson is from Acts chapter 9, verses 36 through 43. If you'll take your New Testament and turn to that passage, pause the video right now, read that passage very carefully, then turn the video back on and we'll continue the lesson. Go ahead and pause that video now. All right, this passage of Scripture from Acts chapter 9 is about a woman named Tabitha. I love that name. That's a very pleasant sounding name. It's actually an Aramaic name. Most Jewish people in Jesus' day used Aramaic as their conversational language, and so all of the Jews reading this book would know that Tabitha means gazelle. A gazelle was an animal that represented graceful motion and grace in presence. And Luke wanted his Greek readers to know this as well, so he also used the Greek word for gazelle, which was Dorcas. So both names, Tabitha and Dorcas, are used in this passage to describe in part what this woman was like. Luke also informs us that Tabitha was a believer in the teachings of Jesus and the good news of the resurrected Christ. Luke also goes to lengths, if you will, to let us know that Tabitha takes her role of servanthood very seriously. She not only provided tunics and robes for the widows of Joppa, but she actually made them herself. No hand-me-down clothes for the widows from Tabitha. They deserved more, and Luke says that Tabitha was a woman, says right here, of good works and acts of mercy. So in a few short verses, we learn an awful lot about Tabitha. Number one, she was a believer. Number two, she was gracious. And three, she was a servant. Now, if I had to sum up my mother's persona in 3 words, this might be what I would say. My mom was a believer for sure, but my mom was also very real, and she was always right. I know that because she said so. Now, I texted one of my clergy friends and asked him to have his wife describe her mom with 3 words. And she described her mom as being crazy and dull, but always there. I remember my childhood friend, Tom Simzak. We palled around together while we were teenagers. He was a Catholic, grew up in a Polish Catholic family, had 7 siblings, and very strict and very devout family within the faith. But he always wondered if his mom was a true believer. He was always concerned about that. Nevertheless, he always said he could count on his mom because she was, in fact, a devout Catholic. She was kind, and she was an obedient wife, which is very important. Where I grew up, that was a very important thing within Catholic families. One of my roommates in college spoke often of his mom's absence in his life. She left her husband and kids when Greg was 7 years old, just up and left them. His memory is faint, but he does remember that she was pretty. She always gave lots of kisses, but of course, she was absent. So what do we have so far? We got 5 moms. One was a believer, gracious, and a servant. A second one was a believer, but real and always right. A third one was described as crazy and dull, but always there. A fourth was described as devout, kind, and obedient. A fifth was described as pretty, a kisser, yet absent. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, what's the point, Patterson? Why are you talking like this? Well, the point is simple. The women who are most important in our lives lived out their character and integrity in different ways. And yet all of them gave each one of us today the capacity to believe in a loving and a redeeming God. We've learned from both their strengths and their weaknesses. Their presence in our lives, or lack thereof, was an impetus for victorious living through their example, whether that example was positive or negative. But that's not the last of it. Tabitha's family and friends thought her life was over. They thought she was dead. But somehow Peter knew different. And so he commanded Tabitha. He said, "Tabitha, get up." And I believe we can surmise what Luke doesn't record in his passage of Scripture at this point is that he said, "Tabitha, get up. Your service is required. You have more to do." You know, thinking about Mother's Day, my mom died roughly 15 years ago. My wife's mom died about 37 years ago. And yet the work that they did in this world lives on. And it lives on in part through my wife and through me. And because of our mothers, we have the responsibility to live out the very best of their character and integrity, and then to push our own character and integrity toward ever-increasing virtuosity. Our mothers, all of our mothers, you're the mother, have given us the capacity to believe. And so we have the responsibility to maximize that capacity regarding our belief in a redeeming and loving God. Some of my mother's talents, abilities, gifts, and skills, and Terry's mother's talents, abilities, gifts, and skills reside in each one of us. And because of that, it is our obligation to use those talents, abilities, gifts, and skills in service to the ministry of Jesus the Christ and his church. I'm going to challenge you to think on this Mother's Day about 3 words that describe your mother or the most important woman in your life. And then I want you to use this passage of Scripture as a call to get up, knowing your service with all that you represent in carrying forth your mother's talents, abilities, gifts, and skills, and character and integrity. You need to get up. Your service is required. You have more to do for the sake of the kingdom. This is Doc Patterson. Happy Mother's Day. I hope it's a good day for you. We'll see you next time here on Doc Patterson YouTube. Take care. Bye-bye.